There we go. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, welcome to today's meeting of the Jones Library Board of Trustees. I know of no changes or additions to the agenda. In my packet, there were minutes from January 14th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Okay, any corrections to the minutes? All right, on the question of approving the minutes, Lee,
Yes.
Clara,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Tammy,
Yes.
and Austin votes yes. Okay, next, we have an opportunity for public comment. We have one attendee. Okay, no public comment. Uh, the president's report. There's a reference to an executive order. Sharon, has the town manager shared the executive order?
No.
You want to tell us what it's about?
The town manager is looking to adopt an executive order preventing ice from going onto town property and town buildings. I think the schools will be handling something separately, and if the town manager adopts this, it would go into effect for the two branches, but it wouldn't for the Jones at 101.
So we will need to make a decision about what we want to do for the Jones um, building. But I don't know what this executive order is going to say. And Sharon asked that it be sent to us. So I'm not sure that we can do very much until we see it. Are there
Yeah,
any
we could.
questions or comments about this executive order possibility? Farah?
Um, I've read a little bit of what's been floating around for signatures, but my question is if it passes town council, um, can we do something about the Jones building? Like, what are the legal requirements?
It would be for not the entire 101 University Drive property and the land. It would only be for, the walls in. So each of the different suites that we're located in.
Mm, okay.
I trust the town manager and town have been or will be in touch with the town's lawyers. This question about executive orders issued by municipal or by state authorities and how or if they bind ICE is a hot one across the nation. So I think we've got to wait and see what the town manager's thinking, and we've got to be apprised insofar as we're able to be apprised of what legal opinions uh, were were or will be given. Any other questions about this executive order question? Okay. Library Building Committee. So the building committee meets once a month. We hear a report on the progress of the construction. We hear a report on the progress of the schedule, where we are in terms of the schedule. And then we typically have invoices to approve. The construction goes apace. If you've been close to the library, you see that we now have steel rising towards the horizon. From what I can understand from the contractors and those meet, Sharon and I and George from the library meet once a week with the uh, general contractor, with the OPM, with the architects, and with Bob Parent, who is continuing to play a role in the project. And we are very, very well served by his continuing to play a role. Um, the fact that steel is rising seems to have been a milestone in the way in which these construction projects go. Um, it looks to me, Sharon can speak for herself, that the construction is going the way it should go. We see everything from trenches that they are digging for electrical service to what they're doing on the roof. Uh, I think I may have mentioned this last time. We lost a couple of weeks because of some issue about the steel and the ways in which the drawings were done. I've asked whether we will be able to make up that time. Uh, it isn't clear that we will be able to make up that time, but it's not unusual in construction projects that this or that causes some delay. So I think we're good on that issue, but we're going to continue to look at it and do whatever we can do to make sure that any time that can be made up will be made up. Um, we are, as you all know, anticipating on February 27th another milestone event when we have the so-called topping off ceremony. The steel beam that will be used in this ceremony is going to be available for people to sign it beginning on the 25th of February. It's going to be across the street from the Jones Library, adjacent to the town parking lot. I encourage you all to go and sign the beam, so that when this library is renovated 150 years from now, someone will say, "Who are those people that signed the beam?" The hope is that the beam will be signed by lots of people. So if you have people that you think might want to sign the beam, bring them. And while they're there, ask them to make a six-figure contribution to the capital campaign. So there'll be a table, as I understand it, there, personed by people from the capital campaign. Sharon, do you want to say anything else about the topping off ceremony?
No, I don't think so. I think that's lovely. Your message about, come one, come all, sign it. Everybody in the community, everybody has worked so hard to get to this point, and people of all ages, come and put your print on it.
Farah?
Sharon, is the plan still to send stickers to the high school or get the high school kids or the kids in the schools to sign somehow?
So instead of stickers, the group decided we'll put the beam in a place that's publicly accessible for basically
2 days.
2.5 days. Yeah, so people can come at their leisure, just because it's more fun to actually be there, sign the beam, as opposed to just signing the sticker. So yeah, we will be getting the word out to the schools to encourage them to come and sign.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Any question about the building committee? And where we are and where we're going? Okay. Um, Next is the Buildings and Facilities Committee.
We met last month in person because it was the most convenient way to talk about, not really talk, to see what we were talking about. We were actually talking about art on the walls in the new building, and Catherine from Special Collections had a presentation for us, basically showing us the art on, on her lap on a screen, and then she had printed out some of the pieces, or a lot of them, so we could see what they looked like up close. And so there was a lot of conversation about where pieces were gonna go, possibility of, and the last minute things that would go in the staff area because staff could pick out what they wanted. We talked about the fact that somewhere, I can't remember who it was, Sharon, if you could clarify, there's a Jones Library Inc. sign that was found, right? Can you speak to that? And we
Correct.
talked about having that up front somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and we talked about the donor wall and possibly it being glass. And I think Eugene is going to follow up a little bit more on that. Right, Sharon? That was the discussion you guys had at PPP. Um, so lots of discussion. Our next meeting next week is also in person. And I think there's been people have asked about why we're meeting in person. It's easier to spread out all the printouts on a table and actually talk and look at the things. And I know the library doesn't have the capability to have hybrid meetings. So our next one will also be in person. People are welcome to come to the room and sit around the table with us. And then after that, I think we'll go back to Zoom for a while. I think that was it. Sharon, did I miss anything? Oh, we also talked about the CPA, what is the right word? The CPA restored pieces, and that there are 8 of them, and they all have to go up on the walls. Any questions?
Thank you. Anything else? Buildings and
No, I
facilities?
think I think that was it.
No roofs are leaking, no bricks are falling, no sidewalks have been cracked at the branches or at 101.
Not that anyone reported. Sharon, has anything happened since our last meeting?
No, branches are good. It's hard to, the town oversees it and they have to DPW plows and facilities, town facilities does the shoveling and the sanding. So um it happens when it happens. And as far as the Jones go, 101 has been the property owners have been great. It does take a little while for them to come and plow and salt and sand and shovel for us too. So but it gets done. It's New England. We're good.
Okay, any questions, other questions for buildings and facilities? Lee Edwards, Development. Lee, you're muted.
It's unlike me. The annual fund has taken in as of February 1st, $81,639 from 331 donors. And during the month of January, the capital campaign received pledge payments, that's cash, of $432,046 and additional cash gifts of $1,729 for a monthly cash total of $433,776. And for some reason, I just didn't write down what new pledge payments came in. I'm sorry, I'll just have to catch you up with that next month. In addition, we're anticipating possibly at the steel beam ceremony, handing over to the town, but that we're going to hand it over to the town at some point soon, a check for $1.1 million. We're just trying to coordinate that event. So that's exciting. In addition, the capital campaign, and maybe I'll have this in a more organized form that I can share with you all next month. A bunch of events in support of the capital campaign. There are a lot of people doing house parties. We're planning a big event. We don't know whether they're going to call it the Sammys Revised. We're not quite sure where it's going to be, but we're working on it, and it would likely happen early in the fall. And there may be a rather large donor event at a donor's house, but a big one sometime over the summer. So there are a lot of events in progress, and we're all very excited about coming to sign the beam. So that's that, and the rest you'll hear from me again from budget and investment.
Any questions for Lee? Thank you, Lee. All right.
Okay.
Tammy?
Yeah. You have in your packet a revised FY26 Library Director annual goals. Seeing as we're under construction, Sharon revised them. So we approved them at the PPP meeting, and I would like to propose a motion to approve the revised Library Director annual goals.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay. Let's spend a minute, if you haven't already, looking at these revised goals. Sharon, do you want to just walk us through the changes?
Sure. So number one, I updated the Friends annual fund goal based on the FY26 budget. Number two and number three, they kind of I could have gone on a lot, but I crossed off. We're in the interim location, for example. We've packed and moved, and added new things that we're doing for number two, and same thing with number three. The plans for once we resume back at 43. Number four, that's continuing to work with the capital campaign. And number five is continuing to work with the Jedi Committee. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah, just a question on this. Since this is FY26, am I correct that this is really like for the remaining 4 months or so of the fiscal year? Is that the idea?
It it's so my anniversary date is in October. So we've just always called it a fiscal year, but it really isn't a fiscal year. It's from October to September of any given year. So that's just kind of a terminology. But yes, this would have started in October
Okay.
of last year.
Other questions about the library director's annual goals? Okay, on the question of approving the annual goals as presented by the PPP. Lee?
Yes.
Thank you. Nat?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Farah?
Yes.
And Austin votes yes. Tammy?
Okay, the only thing left in our report is if Farah has a Jedi committee report.
Yes. Thanks, Tammy. Okay. So we discussed a little bit more about the the facilitated community outreach event we want to host we are not sure whether it would be in early summer or in the fall. I mean, late spring, so May or in the fall. We are going to meet with the facilitators sometime next month and set up or whatever, outline what this facilitated event would look like. And Pamela and Philip of the town DEI department have been really helpful. Philip has he's been attending all our meetings, has had some great suggestions. The other thing that we discussed was, we were talking about how to do outreach or sort of publicity for this event. And we talked about having a presence at the Global Village Festival, which is April 11th at the high school. So there will be, I mean, the library will have a table there anyways, but members from Jedi will be there as well. And then Philip had talked about how you can catch kids in school and offer them snacks and just give them a little questionnaire to see what they think about. He said it's always really helpful to bring food around teenagers. So that was another way of trying to get teen input on what their vision is for the library going forward. And we're still looking for a member. The amazing children's department and teen department and the social media people at the library have put out some social media posts to try to recruit a college student to join our committee. So there's posts out on Instagram and I guess Facebook and all the other social media platforms. Uh, I think that was it, right, Sharon? Oh, can you speak to the racial equity building challenge?
Oh, well, I haven't seen updated documentation for the program for this year, but when the town participated, it might have been in FY21. It's basically a program that goes a month for a month, and if you register to participate, you're sent emails every day with quick exercises to complete. And so it was brought to the Jedi Committee to talk about us encouraging library staff to participate and possibly the community. I think we'll know more next month.
Okay. And the whole thing was if we paid for this program, then we could offer it to the community for free, right? That's what we had
Yeah.
talked about. So more on that next month after our meeting. I think that's it. Any questions?
Questions for Farah about the Jedi? So I have a question actually for Tammy and a request. The library will be asked to do various things. Um, some of them surrounding the possibility that Immigration and Customs Enforcement people will make a presence, a greater presence felt in the town. And I think the PPP needs to think about this. What should the policies of the library be when and if it receives requests or on its own? This will be folded into or possibly folded into this executive order conversation, but it's not the same thing. Uh, Second question and a request is, I think it would be great for the PPP to think about the more general issue about the library's posture in relationship to, and you can fill in the blanks, threats to democracy, threats to the rule of law. And you fill in the blanks. And by that, I mean, the library makes an effort to be present for the block party. Should the library make an effort to be present for example, the next No King's Day rally? I don't have a view one way or another, but I think the PPP should think about it.
Okay.
Got a couple more, sorry. It would be great if the PPP would work with the library director and any other member of their staff to think about programming opportunities. I think there's a very serious need for education around the virtues, values of democracy. I especially think there's a serious need among younger people, among teens. But I'm not a librarian and I don't exactly know what the need would be. Just one more thing and then is it okay? I'll just finish this one other
Yeah,
thing.
that's okay.
People may want to think of the library as a place of sanctuary. And again, I think the PPP has to figure out what, if anything, that means. The libraries are not churches, they're not embassies. But again, this is related to the executive order. What would the library do if a member of the community sought shelter in the library to, again, fill in the blank, escape this or that? I see Lee. Lee?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Sharon, if nationwide, the library network or the library professional societies are working on a kind of overarching library policy that could inform maybe our thinking.
Yeah, we could certainly look into it. It's it's city by city and city and town, state by state. But I think there are recurring themes, and you guys ultimately will have to decide what goes on in your buildings. But yeah, this is a great opportunity for a really important discussion.
Okay, well, we're meeting on March 10th, so we will put these on the agenda and start talking about them. I doubt we'll resolve them, but we'll start talking about them.
So I see Farah, and I just want to say I appreciate that. We've all got a full agenda. These issues may be pressing. Um, I can tell you in other places in town, people are preparing now for the possibility that we're going to have a very different relationship to the federal government, which could occur at any time. ICE has a facility in Burlington, Massachusetts. They are not far from here. We also know of an incident, I don't think it was related to ICE, that happened in up the road, where two business people were subject to a ugly kind of harassment. Uh, I don't have a crystal ball. I hope none of this comes about. One last thing to say, and again, this is for PPP. July 4th is the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. That would be an occasion for the library to do something. And again, it's February and that's July and it'll all be whatever, but I think it would be good for the PPP to talk about this and to consult with the director and to figure out if the library wants to do anything, what it wants to do. Maybe it doesn't want to do anything at all. Farah?
To go back to the executive order and the library staff and the library doing more, I'm also wondering, and not to add to people's plates, but I know people individually have been trying to do the Lucet trainings. And I wasn't there on time for the last one. I tried to sign up for the one in March. I don't know if I'm sure there's no room, but if there's any way we can get, if going forward with this we don't know whatever the executive order is, when it'll go into place. I think it's important for staff to have that training. I don't know if there are people who've already undergone the training in their personal lives. I'm sure they have. Just because they're not, you know, they should feel comfortable doing what they might have to do going forward. And that was part A. And part B is I'm thinking maybe the town will have some sort of training for all town employees going forward, depending on what happens. So it could be, I'm happy to follow up and send Paul a message just asking him, or just anyways, I just wanted to put it out there.
Okay, other questions or thoughts for the PPP? No one signed up for this duty. And when we think about policies and personnel matters in the library, we tend to be thinking about more, if I can say it, quotidian kinds of things. And I'm great. I would be grateful for the PPP to begin to think about this, work with the library director, report back to the board. It would be very helpful.
Okay.
Thank you, Tammy. All right, budget and investment.
Before I get to budget and investment, I want to go back to capital campaign, because in the interval between when I made my last report and now, I received a confirmation that we received a new $250,000 pledge. So that will show up officially on next month's report, but it's very nice. And this is from a person who started out with a very generous pledge, promise of 100,000, and so has increased the pledge because of increased conviction of the worth of the project. So that's very nice. And now, budget and investment. We met in person at the library on February 10th, and the first part of our meeting was what I think was a very fruitful discussion with a representative from the Greenfield Savings Bank. Because, well, the discussion was whether it would make sense for the library to switch the interface between the library and Vanguard away from Mercer, from whom we inherited it a couple of years ago, to Greenfield Savings Bank. We currently pay Mercer almost $30,000 a year. And it appears that Greenfield Savings Bank could perform the same services or even better services for $5,000 a year. The person that we're dealing with at Mercer is, you know, very fine. But the interface that the library actually has to use on a more regular basis to um, make contact with Vanguard or to move money around in the Vanguard account is extremely clumsy and hard to use. And so the representative from the Greenfield Savings Banks indicated that, whatever electronic interface we had, that he was right around the corner and was always available to speak with us and help us out. So, and we had a brief discussion about whether it would make sense to eliminate the middle person altogether. And while it might be possible to do that, especially when we have somebody as nimble and well versed in these matters as Nat around, we might not always have Nat around. And it also seemed that it made sense to have a kind of institutional interface, having its eye on the money so that everything was very clear and, as the saying goes, transparent. So I don't know that we need to make a motion, but we certainly would recommend, I think, making this change. And I've got it wrong, so Nat wants to correct
Yep.
me.
Nat,
Oh, I would like to make a motion.
Okay.
And I'm happy to read it or to share it. But I'd like to move that the library terminate its investment management arrangement with Mercer, which currently costs $30,000 annually, and replace it with a similar arrangement with Greenfield Savings Bank at a cost of $5,000 annually for the library endowment and the Woodbury Fund, while maintaining the current asset allocation guidelines using Vanguard, ETF, or mutual funds.
Okay, yeah, I would second that.
so is there a discussion? Tara?
I just have a quick question. Uh, that's a huge difference, 30,000 and 5,000. Like, what were we getting from them? Like,
In my view, very, very little, because
okay.
we already have rather strict asset management guidelines. And so there really wasn't much leeway for them to make changes other than if markets changed. And so we went above or below what our guidelines were. So we weren't really getting that much value in my view. Um, I've I'm a trustee for another community organization that has a much smaller endowment, but Greenfield Savings Bank has been um, providing services to that organization for a number of years and to great satisfaction. And basically, they are willing to be a good community partner. Um, and so $5,000 seems like a pretty good um, arrangement and quite a bit of savings compared to what we have been paying.
Thank you.
So I would like it if you could walk us slowly through what we're going to be paying for. So to be honest with you, I never really understood what Mercer was supposed to be doing and why Mercer got stuck in the middle between us and Vanguard. So what is it that Greenfield Savings Bank will be doing?
So still, I mean, not very much. So they will have our assets that will be invested in the Vanguard funds according to our investment allocations. They will provide us monthly statements as to what those values are and so forth. If we have funds to withdraw from the endowment or to contribute to the endowment, or the Woodbury Fund for that matter, they will facilitate that and will transfer funds.
Well, the word facilitate is running. I want you to walk. When they facilitate it, what do they do?
So make transfers of dollars to and from the account. So, for example, when we're let's say we have $350,000 for the year that we're planning to take out of the endowment, Sharon will make periodic requests to formerly Mercer and in the future GSB, we hope. And then they will make those transfers to the library's account. So they will,
Anything else that they do?
pardon?
Do they do anything else, or is that it?
So then also they will monitor the asset allocations. So if, for example, stocks go up or bonds go up or down or whatever, if we get outside of the allocation guidelines that we have had, then I think annually that they would make transactions that would reallocate to get us back in those guidelines. That's also what Mercer would have done. Mercer also provided us things that we probably didn't really need that much. So they would periodically send us, market information, how the markets have been and so forth. But a lot of that is available in, the financial press. And since, we have these investment, allocation guidelines anyway, we weren't really in a position to act on that kind of financial market information anyway. So it really wasn't something that we were taking advantage of, and I don't think it's something that we really need or find useful.
So the reason why I asked you this is um, Vanguard used to do all of that, and then it stopped. And then it said, we're not going to do that. Mercer will do that. And so I understood that Vanguard, which used to tell you that you're 52% out of balance or whatever, they didn't want to do that anymore. My question is, are there other Vanguard-like places that could do what Vanguard used to do so we wouldn't have to have this middle person? Or is that a thing of the past?
Well, so just to be clear, I believe before Mercer took over, Vanguard was performing that function, but we were also paying Vanguard that $30,000 a year.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, and so but I think that there may be other institutions, but so for example, as Lee said, we can go directly with Vanguard and not have any middle person at all, and just Lee and I would have access to that account. So if we were withdrawing funds for the budget, then Lee or I would do that ourselves, and that would cost us nothing additional. So just to be clear, there are management funds associated with the mutual funds that we have at Vanguard. So it may be
Yeah,
0.07%, very, very tiny.
yeah,
So the actual mutual funds are very, very efficient. And so we could eliminate all other fees entirely. And just Lee and I would or any future treasurer or vice treasurer would have that responsibility. But as Lee said, there is, we think some advantage to having an institutional trustee or institutional asset manager just, holding the funds, and so that there aren't any issues of succession or other
yeah,
difficulties that could come up.
yeah. Thank you. Very, very helpful. Any other questions? Okay, we're ready to vote. Tammy, on this question of shifting from Mercer to Greenfield Savings Bank,
Yes.
Bar,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Nat,
Yes.
Austin votes yes.
Okay, and then oh, the okay. This the next part of what I'm going to say bears on, I think, what Sharon's going to talk about in her report. And again, we have a recommendation. I don't know if this is a time to make a motion or if Sharon's going to make a motion, but we did the FY 26 budget, which we're in drawing near the end of, seems to be just moving along quite fine. And then Sharon presented a variety of scenarios, which are versions of which are in your current package for going forward in FY27, particularly with regard to replacing the vacant positions. And she gave us scenarios with replacing none, one, two, or three. And I remind you, these are not additional positions. These are positions the library used to have that left vacant in this interim period when we were looking forward to the new building. And the endowment draws for these 4 different scenarios ranged from 4.2% if we didn't fill any to 5.3% if all 3 were filled. And after an interesting and I think robust discussion, the committee recommends filling 2 positions, one for the new teen space and one custodial position, both of which we regard as essential for a smooth opening of the new building. And the endowment draw for filling those 2 positions would be approximately 4.8%. So if you, I suspect it would make more sense if there's going to be a motion for Sharon to make it in the
So
context.
Sharon is not eligible to make motions.
Oh,
because she's
okay.
not a
Well,
member of the, not exactly a member of the board. So why don't you make the motion, let it be seconded, and then,
okay. All right. And then I would also say that at 5, a little
all right,
before.
hold on one second. Sharon doesn't want you to do
Yeah,
it.
no, we're not ready for a motion yet.
Okay.
The beauty of the FY27 budget request process is that it started really early this year because the town was asking for information sooner, and that has helped our process. And so we've been having these budget committee meetings, and I've been answering the questions, and then we have another budget committee meeting. And so what Lee is reporting is all correct. I just want to make one clarification. What they are recommending, the direction they've given to me now is one full-time position for the teen and one part-time position for the custodial position. And so now what I'm doing is I'm spending time putting together the actual FY27 budget request, the draft. So that will go to, just showing that one final scenario. That'll go to the next budget committee. And then after that discussion, I'll make more tweaks, and then the final draft will come to the full board in March.
So
So no motion needed yet.
I think actually that's not correct. So the budget committee is making a recommendation to the board to, if you will, instruct you to do what they are asking you to do. So I think that it's really for the board now to say, yeah, that seems right. We really want the director to do that rather than plan for 3 positions. So this is a very consequential little moment because it will establish the direction of what the library is going to go, though, as you said, it's not going to be in concrete. So I just think it's important for the board to have this conversation, lest you go and do all of that work and then people on the board say, no, they don't want to do it. So it's a motion to endorse their recommendation, which is to you. That
Just to put it in context a bit, so the um, staffing that is the major impact on the expense side of the budget will also be affected by what's on the income side of the budget. And so I think in our last meeting, we were talking about both sides, and we were kind of thinking that we could come to a way that we could hire one full-time and one part-time person. But I guess I would hesitate at this point to um, just focus on the expense side and talk about the hiring without looking at the full picture, both the expense and the income. And I think that's what we would be doing at our next um, budget meeting and then coming to the full board with the final package. But I think it's very helpful, as Lee said, for everyone to understand which direction we're going and see if people have thoughts or comments about that.
So that's what I'm trying to accomplish. I think we need to have a conversation and we need to either agree or disagree with the direction that you all are going, so that we're all on board with it, and then we'll come back, and this is what we often do, come back and then formally approve whatever it is. So I'm just looking for a vehicle where we all can, this is a big deal for us, where we all can make our voices heard. Yeah, Nat, sorry.
So yeah, going in that direction, can I suggest it might be helpful at this point? Austin, you had requested last time that I come back with information on the amount that we're drawing from the
Yep.
endowment and the effect that has on the endowment. Maybe this would be a good time to go over that quickly first.
It's fine. Here's what I would like to do. I don't want to be fussy about it. I think the budget committee should make a recommendation to the board that we endorse its tentative recommendation. And then it's seconded, and then we have a discussion, and then we vote, and then Sharon goes and does her thing. Is that okay?
I move that the board support the Budget and Investment Committee's recommendation that the library director be authorized by us to hire in the FY27 budget year 2 replacement positions, 1 custodial and 1 for the new teen space.
Want 2 positions or kind of 1.5?
Well, we said before we had this other information, we said 2. If that would be our recommendation. Now, obviously, if the town says you can only have 1.5, then we would have to listen to the town. But our recommendation was for 2.
Yeah, I'm just a little confused because I thought it was 1.5 time position.
No,
But
ours
I
was
may have
for 2.
misheard that.
And Sharon said that she had conversation with the town where she was told it would be 1.5. That's what I think I heard.
So there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay, now we're discussing. Nat?
I wanted to make a friendly amendment, and rather than say authorize the library director, to encourage the library director to make every effort possible to present a budget in which there would be one additional full-time young adult librarian and 1 part-time additional custodial staff person.
You want to say 1 part-time?
I think that was what we had talked about at our last meeting.
I thought we said 2 positions.
No, I think I agree with Nat. I could have
Okay.
misheard, but yes,
I must have missed a decimal point. That's fine. So it is 1.5. That's fine. It's fine.
So
And I'm going to have to disappear very shortly to go to JCPC, but
Nat, sure, tell us about the endowment situation, and then it would be really helpful if you both or you one of another could kind of walk us through how you got to that particular place.
Okay, sure. Can I share my screen to see? Show you the pictures here. So you can see the pictures here. So this shows kind of the world in which we have been living in. So this shows the endowment value using various draw amounts. The main assumption here is that we're in a 60% equity portfolio, 40% bond portfolio, kind of a standard 60-40 portfolio. And looking through long periods of history, 100 years or so, I think if you'll find that that type of portfolio has averaged over 4% annually above inflation. So 4% and over 4% annual real return. Now that doesn't include fees or transaction costs and so forth. So, rounding down to 4%, that's the assumption that we're using. Some people might say that's still a bit optimistic. As people might know from their 401ks and so forth, the market has been pretty good for a number of recent years. So maybe the next 10 years or so won't be as good. We don't know, but let's just assume that it's 4% annual real return. So this first picture shows that we're not using the endowment for the building project. So this is kind of the way things have been for many years. And the lines here show different amounts that could be withdrawn from the endowment. The blue line is the lowest amount here, only 250,000 a year. Now, what we have been doing is about 350,000 a year. So $350,000 a year is kind of between the orange, maybe a little bit below the orange and the gray. So that means that what we have been doing is something fairly sustainable. If you look at that orange line or a little bit below that orange line, we're kind of preserving the value of the endowment at 9.5 million or so. So it looks fairly sustainable. So
And
that's
Nat, just to be clear, this is at the current 4% draw rate.
so I want to not focus too much on the percentage
Okay.
because that can change a bit, but we have been using 4%, but that comes out to about $350,000 a year. So I have the orange line here for 325,000. So 350 would be a little bit below that, but kind of in that same range.
And what you're showing us is the impact of these things on the value of the endowment at different points in time.
Right. So starting out, kind of about 9.5 million. And if you look all the way over to the right side there, back down into 2044, it doesn't change that much. So it looks fairly sustainable. Withdrawing, whether it's 325, 350,000, that seems like a conservative, reasonable draw rate. And that's what we have been doing at about, we've been calling it 4%. So that world doesn't really exist anymore. Right now, we're thinking about using about half of the endowment, let's assume 5 million, to go into the building project. And so, and then this picture shows over the next 10 years, we rebuild the endowment. So you see the immediate drop there. That shows that there's 5 million that's used for the building project in the next 2 fiscal years. And then in the following 10 fiscal years, there's 5 million that's raised that goes back into the endowment. And throughout that period, what happens to the endowment if we are drawing $250,000 every year, 325,000, 400,000, etc. So this may look closer to what we're facing now. So you'll see that the blue line looks pretty good. We'll kind of get back to where we have been, but that's $250,000 out of the endowment every year. If we go to 325,000, we don't quite make it back up to where we started. And at 400,000, we start going down and down. Don't really make up that ground. So this shows that if under these assumptions, if we are putting funds back into the endowment, but it takes 10 years, if we are taking out too much of the endowment, we never really get back to where we started, and we start on a downhill spiral. It takes a while, as you see, up to 2044, the endowment could still be 6 million or whatever, taking out more, but we never make it back to where we were. And of course, this is shown in 2026 dollars, so I try to ignore the effects of inflation. So the next slide is kind of a worst case. Let's say we use 5 million for the building project, but we don't replenish the endowment. So what happens then? Well, even at $250,000 annually, we just keep on going down, down,
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
So we don't want to be in this world, of course. But this just shows you what the impact will be. So based on this, I guess my thought was that we've been taking out $350,000 a year, and on this assumption, kind of sticking in that range seems like it's maybe something we can do. But if we get kind of to 400,000 or so, maybe it just doesn't look as sustainable. So kind of based on this and looking at Sharon's budget projections, one thing that kind of had me concerned was if we're taking out much more than $400,000 a year, that could look problematic. So one of the things that the way I kind of wanted to look at this, so in the proposal that Sharon had come up with, where we have one full-time youth librarian and one part-time custodian added, that shows an assumed draw rate of $417,000, which based on these charts seems like kind of a lot. Based on that, at the last meeting of the Friends, I visited and presented a idea to them, not as a kind of representative of the trustees, but as an individual. And my suggestion to them and showing them these charts was that over the next 10 years or so, the library could be in a, kind of a tenuous position with the endowment. And it would be a, kind of great help if the Friends would recommend that, let's say, $45,000 a year from the Woodbury Fund be allocated to the library budget to help support it. So if that happened, then the net draw rate would be 372,000. But on top of that, if we're saving $25,000 on the asset management side,
Mhm.
then that means we have an effective draw rate, based on kind of comparable to what we have been doing, of under 350,000. So to me, there are risks both ways to, spending too much and drawing too much out of the endowment. And then there are also risks in terms of opening up a new library building where we have new teen space. And if we're not able to provide the type of services that the town really expects and the teens in this town really need, there's a risk there too. So to me, it's a balancing of, where do we want to fall on that continuum? What risk do we want to bear? To me, it seemed like we have a kind of one-time opportunity to open the library with the type of programming and staffing to do the best we can, um, in this new building. And if we can, combine the Woodbury funds and this asset management savings, we can, fund those and still be kind of pretty close to where we have been drawing the endowment. So that's kind of what our discussion had been at the last Budget and Investment Committee.
Nate, thank you. Could you just go back to the Woodbury Fund? So the
Yes.
45 from the Woodbury Fund, is that imagined to be over and above anything else we would get from the Woodbury Fund?
So we have not been, in the recent couple of years, we have not been, or the Friends have not been recommending any annual amounts from the Woodbury Fund to the
But several
library.
years ago, they did on a regular basis, right?
So, right. So, for a while, the Woodbury funds were used to fund many of the programming
Programs,
requests
yep.
that Sharon has had. But in the last couple of years, all of those programming requests have been funded through the various fundraising activities that the Friends have been able to do. So, the Woodbury funds, depending on investment returns and so forth, at $45,000 a year could last 9 years or so. And so my pitch to the Friends was this could be a very effective and helpful bridge for the library to get through this difficult time and still keep up our staffing and try to preserve our endowment for the future.
Now, could you go back to your line charts for a minute?
Yes.
So that one assumes that the $5 million taken out of the endowment is replaced through fundraising over time. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
And then go to the next one. That assumes that it's not replaced over time,
That's right.
right? So, just as a matter of planning, wouldn't we be prudent to assume that there'll be some additional return to the endowment, but not the full 5 million?
Well, yeah, so there's infinite number of permutations between this slide and this slide.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting is that actually, as we think about this, we might be really advised to think somewhere in between. And I just didn't want to, I don't want to be thinking that it's either going to be this way or that way when in all likelihood we'll get some new funds. Maybe it'll be five, maybe it'll be one. So I just wanted to say that because the visual might lead people to think, oh, it's going to be this or it's going to be that.
Right, right. So this is maybe kind of a goal, kind of, but remember, even if we, um, yeah, so hopefully this will happen, but there's also a lot of different futures we can think about. So
Yeah,
I'm not saying this is a suggestion or anything, but for example, let's just imagine a world where whatever I'm not the expert fundraiser, but let's say the decision is made that we're not going to replenish the endowment, but instead of taking 250,000, we're only going to take, say, 200,000 out of the endowment, but we're going to do a whole bunch of other fundraising, and that will provide another, 150 to $200,000 every year, um, for the budget. Lots of ways we can go, but these are just kind of examples showing, what we might be comfortable with in terms of withdrawing from the endowment, looking at various future scenarios.
yeah. Okay, before I ask any of the questions, Tammy, what questions do you have? Farah, what questions do you have?
Nat, does any of this have to do with interest rates and what happens to the economy in general?
So it does certainly. So all these numbers assume that this kind of 60/40 kind of classic portfolio returns 4% above inflation. So if inflation is zero, the assets return 4% a year. If inflation is 3%, assets return 7% a year. It'll never happen every year like that, right? It'll go up and down, and so it'll happen over time, long periods of time, um, but it's very possible. And um, there's lots of market research out there. A lot of scholars have written about this, showing that yes, over many decades, the return might be 4% plus over inflation, but there can be 10-year periods where it's actually, net negative over 10 years. So you just never know what's going to happen in the market. Lots of uncertainties.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Bar, anything? So part of the question for us really involves risk tolerance. So the first thing where the thing goes back, there's no risk. It's all going to be fine. It's just a matter of time. The second chart, which shows it going down, assumes that we're going to take a hit. And the question is, how risky do we want to be? And that's why I said what I said. If I was planning my life, I wouldn't plan on either of those two things because it's likely to be somewhere in between, and it's going to be in between because of market returns and interest rates and fundraising, this is and that's. So it's really a question of how much of a risk do we want to take. Now, with respect to the value of the endowment, I think in a sense that's already baked in, right? If the capital campaign committee does not raise enough funds by the end of June of 2027, more or less, then we're likely to have to take money out of the endowment. And you're saying, here's $5 million as a projection. That makes sense. So I liked what you said. I'm persuaded by it, which is there's financial risk and then there's other kinds of risk. Uh, and the risk of not doing the 1.5 positions. And my understanding was the library director might have wanted more, but the risk of doing 1.5 is to the services that the library provides, to the morale of the staff. So that's the way I see this as a question of how much risk tolerance do we have? And how much flexibility are we going to have if things go south? In other words, if we're closer to that bottom chart than we are to the top chart. In my view, just speaking for myself, which is why I asked you about draw rates, a 4.8% draw rate on the endowment seems to me to be a reasonable place to be. 9 wouldn't have felt reasonable to me, but 4.5 does, because as I understand it, many places with endowments, they target between 3 on the low end and 5 or 6 on the top end. So it feels to me like the 1.5, if the library director thinks that she can make that work, is a reasonable place for us to be, understanding that we're exposing some greater risk to the future financial health of the library because these positions, you're not going to hire them and then get rid of them. So that's a long way of saying I myself think that you've come to a good place um, in terms of the risks that we should take, financial, and the other risks that we might take, which are, let's call them human and service oriented. Anything else anybody wants to say? Yeah, Far.
So I appreciate all this, Nat. I'm not a numbers person, to see this all laid out is really helpful for me. But I also want to have faith that the capital campaign will be able to raise funds. We're not saying the whole amount by 27, but it seems like there is some momentum right now. And I just want to have faith that they will be making progress. But I like the fact that we have this all outlined and a plan.
Yeah, thank you. And just to add to what Austin said, that yeah, it is a matter of, risks one way or another, but it's also, I think, and this gets to what I think you responded to, Farah, which is that it's also a question of what we want as trustees, as a community, to work toward, right? So this is not something outside of the control of the community and the trustees. So if we're, with the development committee, if we want to work in this direction, we think it's important to fund these positions. And this is what it's going to take, and this is what we need to do to replenish the endowment. This kind of budget is also a statement of values and what we think we ought to be working toward.
We ready to vote? Okay. Uh, Tammy, on the question of endorsing Lee's motion as friendly amended by Nat, which is basically to tell Sharon to do budget planning for one full-time and half-time position. How do you vote?
I vote yes to encourage her.
Thank you. Farah?
Yes.
Nat?
Yes, thank you.
And Austin votes yes. I will say, I think for most of us, this is why we get elected. We get elected, we're going to be cheerleaders and supporters of the library, but we get elected because we need to manage both the financial side of the library and the, again, human and service side. These choices are not easy. Paying attention to all this is not easy. But I, again, feel myself that we've landed in a really good place. And I'm grateful to Nat and Lee and Sharon for getting us there. Sharon.
Yeah, just before you move on, I wanted to I really want to thank the budget committee. It's not over yet. We still have a ways to go, but they put a lot of work into getting us to where we are. They they paid attention to a lot of numbers, and I really, really appreciate that and the problem solving. Because I also want to thank the staff. I've been working with them on all these different scenarios and what it would mean for services, and and it's been hard work and a little discouraging. And I think when I'm excited to tell them about this, I think this will make them really, really happy. And then the moral of the story is there is an urgency to this, to the capital campaign. And so I really want to thank the capital campaign um, for doing what they're doing and for all the donors. And don't stop donating. Thank you.
Oh, Austin, are you muted?
Nat, on our agenda, there's a reference to electronic payment of invoices. My question is that right for a conversation or not?
I think maybe just an update to say that after looking into it, it just did not seem to offer any, the um, impediments were too great to really move in that direction,
Okay.
unfortunately.
All right, any questions about that? All right, next, Friends of the Jones Library.
Good afternoon. The Friends met on Monday, February 2nd, and will meet again on Monday, March 2nd. We looked at the charts that you've just seen, from Nat, and had a fairly long conversation about how the Friends could best assist the future financial situation of the libraries. And it was my intention to be fairly circumspect about where that conversation went on that day. But I do feel like I need to make at least a gesture or a pitch to the autonomy of the Friends decision making. So that 45,000 that you saw on Nat's chart, that is not a done deal by any means. We had a discussion, we made no decisions. But I will tell you that we are having the kind of detailed conversations about the finances of the libraries that you trustees that akin to the kind of conversation that you trustees just had.
Oh, thank you for that upbeat presentation from the Friends.
Well, I don't think it's upbeat at all. I don't think anything that we're doing is upbeat these days. But we need to remain optimistic.
Any questions for the Friends? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rich. Library director's report.
Just a couple of things. There will be a group from Kanagasaki, Japan, coming to the town of Amherst, and they will be stopping off at the Jones at 101 University Drive. That will be on March 20th. The On the Same Page, the annual On the Same Page final author event will be on March 25th. So I was just hoping y'all could mark your calendars. You're going to ask me what the title of the book is, and I do not remember, but it has to do with beavers. And so I know y'all are going to want to be there. And I have been invited to do a cup of Joe with Paul. It'll be at Amherst Coffee, I think on March 13th, I think it is. So that's upcoming as well. Um, those are just my quick comments.
Any questions for the library director? Okay, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. We're adjourned.
Okay. Take care,
Related, but
everyone.
thank you.
Thanks.